AMD is age-related macular degeneration. AMD is the leading cause of blindness in the population over 55.
It's much more common as we get older. It's a very important contemporary issue in modern life because it affects our ability to drive a car safely and affects our ability to read ever smaller print. So age-related macular degeneration is a deterioration of the very center of the retina called the fovea. It's the most valuable real estate of the human retina.
In the center is a spot which contains a lot of cells. They're called cones. They're little photoreceptors. They absorb the light and they help transmit the vision from the back of the eye to the brain. Unfortunately, in some people, that part of the eye starts to break down and you could lose your vision.
It's also the area that's damaged 80% of the time when there's catastrophic loss of vision. So when we lose our fovea, when we lose both the structure and the function of our fovea, we can no longer read as we get older, and we can no longer drive a car safely as we get older. This is incredibly important because fully half the people in our blind rehabilitation centers in the United States suffer from age-related macular degeneration. Optometrists are in a key position to bring their skill and technology to the forefront to diagnose and prevent early macular degeneration before it manifests with structural changes in the eye and before people lose function of their eyes. I can see changes 10, 15 years before a patient is going to manifest the full-blown disease. And we tend to ignore early changes in the eye.
People get macular degeneration because it's an inflammatory disease.
Macular degeneration is probably a multifactorial disease, but in the end what we end up seeing is a buildup of debris that is normally cleared easily throughout our lives. The photoreceptors are constantly involved in producing waste products, and normally those waste products are cleared such that there's no buildup. In that disease, macular degeneration, we see buildup of that photoreceptor debris, and clinically we call that drusen, where we're seeing little yellow dots in the retina.
This is a disease of Western civilization, and it's a disease that's related to diet, the food supply, and dietary choices that people make every day. It's related to dark green leafy vegetable consumption and intaking nutrients within dark green leafy vegetables such as lutein and magnesium and vitamin C and zinc and zeaxanthin and essential fatty acids, which tend to build the protective layer in the eye known as macular pigment optical density.
Lutein and zeaxanthin are carotenoids that we get from certain foods. It's plant pigments. So spinach, kale, collard greens, goji berries, eggs contain these wonderful nutrients. Lutein and zeaxanthin is carried to the back of the eye and acts as a blue light filter and an anti-inflammatory molecule to protect the macula. Through many, many studies have shown that it decreases the risk of macular degeneration and decreases the progression of macular degeneration.
So that's preventive.
It is preventive. This is a disease that can be frozen in time. We sometimes see reversal. At our medical center, North Chicago VA Medical Center, we completed 2 randomized controlled clinical trials where we put lutein and zeaxanthin to the test in a controlled situation. We supplied patients with 10 milligrams of lutein and in one trial, and then we did the same with zeaxanthin. These are the 2 major dietary carotenoids which are in short supply in the U.S. diet. And in a controlled fashion, over a year, we found an improvement in visual function across multiple domains of vision. And we showed that by supplying patients with specific supplementation, we were able to reverse the deficit that they had. Our studies at this point have been replicated in every, almost half a dozen countries around the world.
We have a wonderful study that came out about 10 years now, the age-related eye disease study, which showed us that if they have what are called category 3 dry macular degeneration or geographic atrophy that's non-central, those patients can benefit from going on antioxidant therapy. They literally take a multivitamin of a special formulation twice a day, and that's been shown to dramatically slow the disease from progressing.
We always offer nutritional therapy to patients at all stages of the disease because we have seen cases where people had legal blindness and they no longer have legal blindness after taking these supplements.
The supplements that we know that decrease the risk of macular degeneration are lutein, zeaxanthin, mesozeaxanthin, omega-3 fatty acids, and vitamin D3 with K2. Also B6, B12, and methylfolate can also decrease the risk of macular degeneration. We know also exercise decreases the risk of macular degeneration. All chronic diseases, and that includes macular degeneration, have increased since 1900 because the American diet has become very processed. Chris Kenobi, who is an ophthalmologist, who actually quit his practice to study why people get macular degeneration, has identified 4 things that are in the diet that has increased the risk of many chronic diseases. Polyunsaturated vegetable oils, which is refined vegetable oils. These are inflammatory oils that's added to processed food. 2 is refined grains. These refined grains increase the insulin level in your body and cause inflammation. Inflammation being the core component to chronic disease. Number 3 is trans fats, and number 4 is sugar. With those 4 foods, that equals about 63% of the American diet.
Alzheimer's and macular degeneration are very similar. We're dealing with waste deposit debris that builds up in both organs. And many of these products that build up are related to lack of nutrients within the diet.
So when do we start nutrition therapy to prevent AMD? My feeling is you want to always be on nutrition therapy to prevent AMD because you don't want to get this blinding disease, and we know this is a disease of our diets and our lifestyle. So what we want to do is we want to make sure we eat real food, whole food, such as kale, spinach, collard green, eggs, and you want to also eat foods that are high in omega-3, such as wild salmon, sardines, and mackerel. We don't want to eat processed food, things in a box or a bag or a carton. You don't want foods where you look at it and you can't pronounce anything that's on the label. You want to get out in the sun and try to get vitamin D. Of course, it's best to get the vitamin D from the sun in the morning. We also want to make sure that we're exercising.
You're almost double at risk if you have high sugar in the diet. So I'm going to have a really deep conversation about soda. I'm going to have a deep conversation about your gut health. I'm going to have a deep conversation about your sleep, whether you have sleep apnea, for instance. And we're going to talk about stress, and we're going to try and create an environment where there's not deterioration of your eyes and brain going on.
Macular degeneration is another thing that's in a crisis right now. But we have things that we can do for that. Things that you can take and coatings that you can put on your glasses that can not only help you see better at the time, but protect your eyes. I take something every day that actually helps put more pigmentation in the macula in the back of the eye that absorbs the ultraviolet blue light.
Besides aging, smoking increases the risk of developing macular degeneration, and obesity doubles the risk. There are other factors, of course, that have been identified, such as intake of dark green leafy vegetables, intake of orange and yellow peppers, intake of fish, having enough sunlight, vitamin D intake.
Thank you for watching Open Your Eyes. Be sure to tune in for more informative episodes.